video is all about time signatures.
To something with a 9/8 time signature.
What they are, how they work, and how to use it as a tool to make it easier to learn your sheet music. So firstly, what is a time signature?
What is it?
Well, a time signature is a vital piece of information on every piece of sheet music that you're gonna learn from. It is on the right side of our key signature. And that is a separate video. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. If you do, good for you. A time signature basically lays out the repeating grid that the rhythm of your sheet music is going to follow.
Follow me.
Kind of important. It's the little thing that looks like a fraction most of the time on your sheet music. And I say it functions like a fraction because we have the two parts, the numerator and the denominator, top and bottom.
Andy, you want to get into some fraction action?
So the top number is referring to the number of beats per grid. So our bar lines in our sheet music are what determine the repeating grid, and that numerator determines how many beats within each square of the grid. This number can be anything.
Can't we be like anything?
Except for one, because like, why would you do that? No song goes 1, 1, 1, 1. It's 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. So that numerator, number of beats, can be any number we like. Now the denominator, the bottom number, is referring to the type of beat we are using.
But what type is that?
So this has to be related to a note value. So basically it's got to be a multiple of 2 because we have whole notes, we have half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes. I mean, you're not going to have a 1 though. You're not going to have like 4, 1, right? So you're not going to have a numerator of 1. You're not going to have a denominator of 1. It's got to be a note. So 2, 5, for instance, is not
Not.
a time signature because we don't have a fifth. It's not a, a multiple of 2, right? Or a power of 2, I should say. But 2, 4 is a time signature, 6, 8 is a time signature. So just think about that for a second, right? If I have, let's say 9, 8, what is that saying? 9 beats, so 9 in the numerator, and 8 is the type of beat that we are using. So 9/8 notes per square is what 9/8 is saying.
That was easy, right?
Let's say 4/4, right? It's called common time because it's literally the most common time signature. Sometimes you'll even see this as a C in your music, which always throws my students. I'm like, it's the same thing as 4/4, I promise. But what is 4/4? Well, the numerator 4 is telling us 4 beats per bar, per little gridded square, and the 4 below is telling us the type of unit that we're using to measure the beat. So quarter notes. So 4 quarter notes. And so on and so forth.
And so forth.
So yes, you could have 3/16, 3 16th notes. And in fact, Bach loves those kinds of time signatures for some reason. I'm not sure why. It's kind of his thing, 9/16, 12/16. So yes, all those things are possible. I've never really seen time signatures with 32 in the denominator or past that. I mean, I'm sure it exists because theoretically you could, but like, why?
But why?
So remember, numerator, number of beats, denominator, the type of beat. So why does all this matter? Why is this important? Well, firstly, music needs a steady beat.
Steady.
Right? It's like your heartbeat, okay? You want that to be steady. Imagine if it was tachycardic all the time, like bup, 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 and you had no way of counting the beats, right? That would be bad, and you probably would not live, unfortunately, very long because of this. So firstly, we need time signatures because it keeps a steady beat. Secondly, it sets up the repeating grid pattern that we need to write our sheet music. So remember, everything's on the grid, right? So we have the x-axis, we have the y-axis.
Grid, 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 grid.
That bar line is showing the repeating function of our beat. And could you imagine counting to like, 50? Imagine if you have like a song with like, 60 separate beats. Would it be easier to do those as like, bars of 3? So you're like 1, 2, 3, 2, or could you imagine going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 21? No? Oh, and you have to start all over. That repeating grid pattern is really, really important to making your life easier.
It would make life a little easier.
And to this point, the time signature gives us the thing that we feel naturally in music, even as babies.
Even my baby sister.
Even as babies. And that is a strong and weak beat feeling. That's how you know something is in 3. Like, you can ask someone, and if they have a decent ear without any music training, they could tell you if something's in 2 or something's in 3 because of how it feels. They may not be able to give you that term, but if I told you to clap when you feel the 1, when you feel a strong beat, most of the time you could do this. And I notice this even with my most beginner first day students. And that's because we innately feel weak and strong beat relationships.
Strong prey on the weak.
So let's go back to that 4/4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. You intuitively feel that, and the bar line and the time signature structure gives us an easily identifiable reading pattern that emphasizes that strong and weak beat feeling. So we have 3 distinct types of time signatures within music. So before we get into those 3 types, it is very important to note that the type of time signature affects the subdivision, or how notes are beamed together. This is very, very important because when you have complex rhythms, if you can see your beaming structure in relationship to your time signature, it's much easier to understand when to come in with the music. You don't get caught up counting like, 16ths of beats, and instead you can see, oh, here's my 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm coming in on 2 here because of the beaming structure. So it is very, very important. If you're confused, look at the beams and how they relate to your time signature, and it's gonna really help you looking at your sheet music. The first type of time signatures we're going to talk about are those in what we call simple time.
It's pretty simple.
And this is just referring to subdivisions of 2. So your 8th notes are beamed in groups of 2 in simple time. What are examples of simple time? Well, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. These are all examples of simple time signatures, and the vast majority, probably all of your music in the beginning of learning an instrument is going to be in simple time, because simple time versus the other types of time signatures are counted slightly differently. So you want to understand that subdivision of 2. Know it, feel it.
Just feel it.
Embody it. The easiest way to count things in 2, I like food. So apple, apple, apple pie. That's it, just groups of 2. The amount of beats per bar in your simple time is of course determined by that numerator note. But we know we are in simple time because the denominator is a 4. So it's a quarter note is our type of beat, and our quarter note divides evenly into 2 8th notes. The second type of time signature that we have is what we call compound time signature.
1, 2, 3.
So these 8th notes are beamed in groups of 3. The prerequisites for something to be in compound time are just groups of 3. So that numerator number has to be groups of 3. So for example, 6/8 is an example of compound time. And it's not 6 beats because we count it as groups of 3. It's 2 beats, right? So let's take a second to go back. This kind of always throws students. So if we go back to our simple time, let's say 3/4, right? We're not saying that this is 6 beats because it's 6 8th notes together making 3 quarter notes, but we're saying it's 3/4 because we are counting 3 individual quarter notes as beats. Now, if we go back to our compound time example, 6/8, there are still 6 8th notes, same thing, but because of that they're beamed differently, we count our beats differently. So 6/8, like I said, is 2 groups of 3. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. And an easy way to feel groups of 3, like I said, I love food. So strawberry, blueberry, strawberry, blueberry pie. Just know your strawberries and your blueberries for compound time and you will be good. So let's think of some other examples of compound time. Okay, 6/16. right? The denominator can change. What about 12/16? You can also have, and this is tricky, 9/4 is an example of compound time, because those quarter notes there are actually written in groups of 3. This is a little bit more of an advanced concept, but just remember, groups of 3, compound time. And the third type of time signature is what we call irregular time signatures.
This is highly irregular.
So these are just numbers that can't be divided by 2 or 3. We're not really gonna get into these because again, these are more advanced concepts, but I think it's important to introduce just their existence to students. So an example of an irregular time would be 5/8, right? Because it's not an equal group of 2, it's not an equal group of 3, so how do you beam it? That's another lesson for another day, but if you're playing music that's in 5/8, you're probably not watching this video anyways, right? So now we're gonna try clapping a few examples in simple time, and we're gonna use a few different time signatures to show that weak, strong beat relationship, and also the subdivision of our 8th notes, right? Remember your apple, apple, apple. So do your best, clap along with the examples. Probably go back, rewind, try it with the video, try it without the video, until you really get a firm grasp on how that works. All right, we're gonna clap our first exercise in simple time. It's written on treble clef G, but we're just gonna clap it. It's important to help you feel your rhythm. Clapping is a great tool. So I got my sheet music right over here. I'm gonna count us down from 4, and then we are going to begin. You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're gonna do our second simple time exercise. This example is in 3/4. So I'm gonna count to 3 before we begin because we have 3 quarter notes per bar. And this sets up our strong and weak beat relationship. So I'm gonna count to 3 and then I'm gonna clap this music with you guys. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, now we're gonna try clapping examples in compound time signatures. So remember, this is just groups of 3. So if you remember strawberry, blueberry, pie, you are going to do fine. Like with all concepts, it takes time. Pause the video, go back, try it with me, try it without me. You're not gonna get it perfect by the end of this video, and that's okay. Again, these concepts take some time to really embed themselves into our being. All right, so we're gonna do our compound clapping exercises now. Before we begin, there is a concept in here that we have not yet talked about. It's gonna be a separate video. It is the rhythm dots. So don't worry about that for now. All that the dot means for now in these exercises is that it is representing a whole beat. So when you see your dotted quarter note, that's representing 1 beat in our compound time signature. And when we have the dotted half note, that's representing 2 beats within our compound time signature. We'll explain why in a minute, but because we are counting in groups of 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that changes the beat structure. And secondly, we have interesting groupings of quarter notes and 8th notes in these examples. So if you look at a quarter note followed by an 8th note in a compound time, well, what is this saying, right? We have 3 8th notes in 1 beat. A quarter note is worth 2 8th notes. So it's just saying we clap on 1 and then 3. So if I'm like 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And if it's reversed, let's say we have an 8th note and then a quarter note after, right? So that means we clap on 1 and 2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. These are just simple divisions of the groups of 3 8th notes, and I think it's important to try and introduce them to students now. we can get more into the theory with it at a later date, but you just really want to feel that rhythm. All right, if you have trouble with this, that's totally okay. I highly recommend to students isolating the one part of the rhythm that you have trouble with and just repeating it over and over until you get that figure kind of stuck in your head, and then it's going to be easy. So we're going to try our first compound time example in the time signature of 6/8. So that means 2 groups of 3. So our metronome is going to be representing those 2 groups. So it's not going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So maybe if it seems unfamiliar at first, take a listen without trying to clap it and then clap through it. But if you think you got it, we're gonna do it right now. All right, so I got my music right here. We're gonna do compound time exercise number 1, okay? Here we go. So I'm gonna count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4. All right, now we're going to do example number 2 for compound time. Got my music right here. Because it's in 9/8, I'm gonna count to 3, and then we are going to begin. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3. All right, quick recap.
And now the bad recap.
So, why are time signatures important? They set the grid
Grid, 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 grid.
for our written music. They emphasize our strong and our weak beat relationships. The top number, the numerator, is referring to the number of beats that we have within a bar, and then the bottom number is referring to the type of beat we are using. So that has to be some note value. So it can be 2, 4, 8, 16, etc. Simple time is always in groups of 2. So if you're looking at music and you're unsure about the time signature, are your eighth notes beamed in groups of 2? Well, you're in simple time. Are your eighth notes beamed in groups of 3? Well, then you are in compound time. And one last thing, and I wish my students did this more often. I wish I did it more often as a kid, to be honest, because it would have saved me a lot of time and struggle later.
Don't try to struggle, man.
Clap the rhythms in your music with a metronome. The left hand, the right hand, maybe trying them both at the same time. Rhythm is like this forgotten element of music, and you need to bring it along with the notes. It's not just enough to know the pitches in your music, but your rhythm is what gives the music life. And that is it for our video on time signatures. I really hope you learned some good stuff about simple and compound time, and hopefully found some ways to make your sheet music a little bit less intimidating. Don't forget, drop a like, a comment, subscribe if you have not already. All that you do really helps. I'm trying to get this out to as many people as possible, and anything you can do to feed the algorithm is much appreciated. If you appreciate the content even more and you'd like to support, check out www.thepowerfulpiano.com. We got awesome merch, always some new stuff on there, so make sure you double back. You're gonna be fitted right, and you're gonna be supporting a good cause, so can't lose. But as always, good luck with your practice, guys, and stay powerful, y'all.